He's just kind-hearted.
Okay, so we are going to the second part of 4.5. So this is notes, not a worksheet. This is basically your homework for tonight. What we don't finish in class, you will finish.
So let's finish.
Okay, so we need to remember that sine and cosine curves, we had a basic structure of them, correct?
Yeah.
We had y equals plus or minus a. And I'm just going to write sine slash cosine, because it's either or, correct?
Yeah.
And then we had x times x, not x, b, minus h plus k.
Yes.
And the k can be in the front or in the back.
Wouldn't it be plus or minus k?
Plus or minus 8?
It'd be plus or minus everything, but this is minus because it's always the opposite sign.
Okay.
So this b, we are not going to put a negative b because we're going to take care of reflections over the y-axis with our other movement. We just aren't going to do the y-axis. It's harder to do. We don't want to think about it. I'm not going to stress you about it. I'm not going to make you do it. Does that make sense? So we need to find these parts. We need to find a. We need to find whether it is positive or negative. We need to find the b. We need to find the h. We need to find the k. So a is what?
Amplitude.
Amplitude. B was what?
Is B.
B is B. But it isn't. We had period equaled what? 2 pi over B. So what's B equal?
1.
You got to solve this equation for B. I'd multiply by B on both sides and divide by P. So B equals 2 pi over P. What does P stand for? Period. How would you describe period? No, how would you describe it?
How
Like,
many times the circle repeats itself?
okay, and close. How long or how much of the x-axis it takes for it to repeat, right? It's one complete cycle. So H is what?
H. Horizontal.
So left or right?
Yeah.
And K is what? Up or down. So when we write an equation, we're not going to leave it b times x minus h. We're going to multiply it out, and that's where we get our bx minus c that the book has, because c would be b times h. So we are going to identify all these parts. We're going to find if it's reflected, if it's A, we're going to find A, we're going to find B, we're going to find H, we're going to find K. And we are going to be writing both sine and cosine curve for every single graph I give you. Now, it isn't double the work because there are certain things that are the same and there's things that change. And we'll be discussing that. So the first one we have is I want a sine function. So this one particularly, I'm just doing what? Sine.
You forgot the scale.
Don't need it on this.
You don't need it?
Nope. We'll figure that. We'll use the scale to find the period. We're not graphing anything. We are taking from a graph to write an equation.
Oh.
Okay. So we're going to make it a sine function. I have the amplitude as 15, the period as 4 pi, and the phase shift is pi over 2, and it's a vertical shift down. Guys, when it says phase shift, that is BH. It's already multiplied B and H together. Understand? Okay. I am not going to give you these problems like this on your test, but I wanted to go through them before we started going straight from a graph. Your test will be, or your quest will be all graphs. I will have no words. Okay? unless I say has moved left. It won't be a phase shift. Does that make sense? I won't use the word phase shift. So we're just going to fill it into this right here. Does it say anything about reflection?
No.
Nope, so it's positive. What's A?
15.
15. So we have y equals 15. What function? Sine of. Now we need B. What's B equal? 2 pi over P.
So 2 pi.
2 pi over
4 pi.
4 pi.
So 1/2.
5 over 2.
1/2.
1/2.
Pi's reduced.
Pi's reduce 1 and 2. Okay, so I have 1/2 x, and they already did my a times b for me, minus pi over 2, and then minus 10. So when you had those two problems on that worksheet, that's all you had to do. Fill them into those spots. So try the cosine one on your own.
Okay.
Do you want us to keep it as 0.5? Or should you choose?
I personally would change it to 1/2 because everything else is in fractions. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to have a decimal and fractions. Okay, so did you get 1/2 cosine 6x plus pi over 3
I did not.
plus 5?
I got confused on trying to find B.
Okay, what is b? 2 pi over your period. So I have 2 pi divided by pi over 3, so that means I multiply by 3 over pi. So the pi's reduced, and I get what? 6. Now, did everyone put plus pi over 3?
Yes.
Good job. Why is it plus?
Because
it's
negative.
Because it's negative h, and so a negative and a negative is a positive. Was b my only issue?
Yeah.
Okay. So remember that multiplying by reciprocal.
These on my test.
Hmm?
You can have those on the test.
I can have those on the test. Okay. So I've told you for every single graph, you are going to write both. You might want to underline that. Every single question you do on every assignment, it will be both. I don't care what it says, it is both. Got me?
I got you.
Okay, so there are things that are always going to be the same. The period is always going to be the same for sine and cosine. So that means B would be the same, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. K, vertical movement, always going to be the same.
Yes.
Amp will always be the same. But what's not going to be the same?
You're good.
Okay.
Horizontal.
The horizontal movement, because when we graphed the sine and cosine parent functions we talked about, they were the same graph just by a pi over 2 translation, weren't they? So the h is always going to change, always going to change. Now the reflection may change. The reflection may change. And I am going to tell you there are infinite number of places you could start a graph. I could start a graph here, here, or right here, or wherever. But I am going to tell you that you are going to start the closest to 0.
Okay.
Okay, so if the closest is a translation to the left, that's what you're going to use. Got me? So, we only see from 0 to where? 2 pi. So the first thing you're going to do is write the domain that you looked at. So x such that 0 is less than equal to x, which is less than equal to what? 2 pi. On the next one, what is my domain? 0 to what?
0 to 2 pi.
2 pi. Even though there's dots back here, do you know where those dots are?
No.
Are they labeled?
No.
No. What is on the next one?
The same thing.
0 to 2 pi. Are they all 0 to 2 pi? Hopefully not.
Yeah.
No. Look at 8.
4. 8 is 5.
It's 0 to what?
5 pi.
5 pi.
7 is 4 pi.
9 is 0 to what?
9 is pi.
Yeah, pi.
0 to pi. Now, can I come to this back over here? Why can't I use this?
There's no labeled x.
There's no label x's, so I can't use it. The reason why we are writing domain on every problem is saying, I'm writing my equation based off of what I see from what to what? 0 to 2 pi. I'm not basing my equation off anything I can't see. Does this make sense? Because it could change. Like I could do a little change and it could start going like this over here. Like really wonky. But I'm not writing my equation off of that. I'm writing off from 0 to 2 pi. Got it? So that's going to be the same. Everything that's going to be the same, I'm going to write it in red. And then we're going to go through how to do it. So we said things that are going to stay the same are amp, period, B, and K. Right? So you will identify amp, period, B, and K for every graph. So the amp is the distance from the center of the curve. Well, the center of the curve happens to be where?
Pi.
0.
Oh.
Okay? On this one. Okay? So how far does it go from 0 up?
1.
1. How far from 0 down? 1. So the amp is what?
1.
1. The period, well,
Pi.
start at 0 and I go to
2 pi.
2 pi.
That's 1.
So period is 2 pi. I'm just looking at the graph, right? Okay, so now I have B. Well, B is 2 pi over P.
So 1.
So 2 pi over 2 pi is
1.
1. And K is 0. Didn't move up or down, did it? Okay. I personally always write sine, then cosine. I don't care if you write cosine, then sine. It doesn't matter. I just personally always do sine, then cosine. That's what I do. Okay, so that is what's the same. So you then label sine of theta. Or x. I always put a theta, and I don't know why. I'm just used to it. What did I say was always different? H. Okay? And what did I say is sometimes different? Reflection. So the two things you need to start doing is H and reflection. Because do I have everything so far? I need A, B, H, and K. I already have A, B, and what? K. So individually, on sine and cosine, you are going to show me H and the reflection. Okay? So sine. Now remember, sine starts at the center of the curve and goes up. That's the parent function, correct?
Yes.
So H equals, well, closest to 0 that I know. Because I don't know back here, do I? You cannot extend and make up your own graph. I'm telling you right now. Everyone hear me and understand me. Because guess what somebody's going to try to do? Extend it and make their own graph. Okay, so where does it start the first time? Pi over 2. I put a dot on my graph if I have a worksheet, and I write sine so I can see it. So my brain can see that. So what is my H? Pi over 2. Is it reflected?
No.
No. Reflect. No. Okay, you don't have to write that, but you can to make sure you always look at it. Does that make sense? Okay, so now I'm just going to fill it in. You guys have it on your note sheet. We're just going to fill it into here. That's all we're going to do. So it's y equals,
Sine.
nope, well, I'm going to do it in steps. Amp
Sine.
is
1.
1. Now, normally I would expect you just to write sine, but I'm just going to do it for now. 1 sine of b, 1, x minus h, what's h?
H is pi over 2.
Pi over 2 plus k. Now, I would expect by next week sometime you're not writing a 1 there and you're not writing a plus 0, but I'm going to show it all to you. Then we distribute our 1 every time. You distribute whatever your b is. So the sign is going to be y equals sine of x minus pi over 2.
And now we do cosine.
Okay, and now you do cosine. Guys, you do have to label what you're doing. It's not multiple choice grading. If it is not labeled, you get what I'm saying? Like, I need to know that this is the h for sine. Got it? I can't just have random h's floating around. If you do what doesn't change and then what does separately, it just makes it much easier. Okay, cosine, if I'm doing it, looks like this, correct? Here's the parent function. So it starts at a maximum or a minimum, correct?
Yes.
So closest to 0, a minimum or max is where?
Negative 0.
At 0.
Did you say negative 0?
No, he said -1 because he was giving me the y and I wanted the x.
Oh.
You're fine. I'm looking for the x value for the h, right? So what is h?
0.
0. But it is what?
Reflected.
Reflected. Okay. So then I fill it in. So y equals a, what's a? 1. Function is cosine. B is,
Would it be -1?
oh yes, it would be -1. Thank you very much. Why is it negative? Reflection. Okay, B is 1. X minus H. What's H? 0. Plus K, which is 0. So the cosine graph is just y equals what? Negative cosine of x. Not that hard, is it? Every problem. You have gotten what your test is. That is what your test is, every single problem.
Take it now.
That's it. Okay, so the next one.
0.
First thing I do is the what?
Domain.
Domain.
After all the homework you do.
What is the domain?
X
X such that
X.
0 is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 2 pi.
Now what?
We find the amplitude.
Find the amp. So I need to put on here the center of the curve.
2.
So it goes up 1, 2. Yes, Kelly, you're correct. So amp equals 2. Then what? Period.
2 pi.
2 pi. Because from start to finish it is 2 pi. So B is 1. Do I need to write the equation?
I'll do it.
No.
Okay, B is 1. Then what else?
K.
K. Equals 0. You guys good with sign first?
Yeah.
Sine of theta.
Sine of theta?
And then h would be 0.
You guys okay with 0? Right there.
No.
Because sine looks like this. Sine starts at the center of the curve. So the first center of the curve I get is 0. Now, could I legitimately move over to pi and make an equation?
Yes.
Yes. Could I move over to 2 pi and make an equation?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. But I am not grading all of those.
Why is the h on the negative before pi over 2?
Because right here is the first time it hits the axis of the curve.
Okay.
Okay, so h is what?
H is 0.
H is 0. Is it reflected?
Yes.
Yes, because it starts and goes down. So y equals
Negative 2 sine
negative 2 sine of 1 times
x minus 0
x minus 0
plus 0.
plus 0. And yes, Brad, you were right. But I was just, for now, on the front, we're going to do all of it. On the back, we can skip. Okay?
Too late.
Because sine starts and goes up, right? Okay, so you should have negative 2 sine of x.
Yes.
Do you guys want to try cosine on your own?
Sure.
How do you find the h for cosine?
Okay, so cosine starts at a maximum or a minimum. So we're starting at 0 because that's our first thing, right? So where's the first minimum or max I hit?
Negative 2.
Pi over 2, the x value.
Oh, okay.
Bless you. How'd you do?
I did not
Easy.
put the
I think I did it right.
pi.
I did it right.
You forgot your h?
Yes.
Okay.
Wait, it does reflect?
Yes?
It does reflect.
Because it starts here at a minimum. And go, because cosine looks like max and down. This is at a minimum and up.
Oh.
Austin, do you have a question?
I did not.
Okay. Others? No?
Ma'am.
Okay. So you want to try this one all on your own?
Yes.
Okay.
I know.
Why is it pi?
Because start to finish, how long is it? Pi.
I just
Yep.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
What if it, like, the max is reached in the middle between two points?
Well, I think you can figure it out.
Yeah.
What's half of half?
Pi over 2.
No.
Pi over 4, I mean.
Yep. You're going to have to do some of that.
Okay.
Because you should know that max is halfway between those two, correct?
Yeah.
That green is really hard to see. Why didn't you guys tell me that was really hard to see?
I can see it.
I wasn't
Oh,
looking
it's
up
not
there.
bad.
Oh, it's not that bad?
If Isaiah can see it, that's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess it's just from this angle. How'd that go for you guys?
Pretty
I
bad.
just got stuck on the H for cosine because it wasn't written out, but then I
Mhm.
looked up and you already did it, so I just did it.
Okay, so we know that these graphs are cut into how many equal pieces? 4. That's where our scale comes in. Isaiah said, what about scale? That's where our scale comes in. So if I know that this is cut in 4 equal pieces, and I know from 0 to pi over 2 is half of it, so that maximum is going to be halfway between there, so I have to divide pi over 2 by half, don't I? Yes?
Why is, like, for cosine, why is the second one pi over 2 and the first one's pi over 4?
Because when you distribute that 2, the 2 and the 4 reduce? Correct?
Yeah,
Because that would be 2 pi over 4.
okay.
Okay, so on the test, if you get me here, you're missing a point. You've got to do what?
The arrow.
You
Oh.
distribute? That's what I was looking for. Math words.
Okay, so
I wasn't sure where he was.
Okay, so I don't know how much time we have here, guys.
We got
3
Oh, we got-
minutes. We have 3 minutes, yeah.
No, we
We have a
don't.
lot of.
We have.
We have 3 minutes.
It's 32.
We have 15 minutes, Mrs. Nick.
I thought you didn't know how to read
well,
clock.
let's get it done.
Okay,
That was my watch.
so let's do one more together. I think. Okay, so
Miss Mick, we can get all these done together.
okay. What are we gonna do first? Domain.
Would it be 0?
It is 0 to what?
2 pi.
2 pi. Guess if I'm using x's when I should put sine, it should be sine of x, not sine of theta, huh?
Good.
If I'm going to be technical about it.
Still confusing.
Then what?
Amplitude.
Amp. Ooh.
Is it 2?
Okay, we got to find the center, right? Where's the center?
I'd say about -2.
This is scary.
I say it's negative.
Okay,
I counted
so
on the outside.
if I go from -6, right,
Yeah.
to +2, how far is that?
Positive
8.
units.
Right? Divided by
2.
2 is what? 4. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we eyeballed it at -2, but did the math tell me for sure?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How'd you do that?
We did 2 minus a -6 divided by 2.
Okay.
So 8 divided by 2 is 4? Yes? Now, and then we went 4 from the top. Now I will tell you other places go -6 minus 2 over 2, which would have given you negative what?
It would have given you -2.
It would give you -4, not -2.
How? Because 6
Because
minus 2 is
it's -8.
Oh.
Okay, so that negative probably would have messed you up, huh? Would that negative messed you up?
Suno.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so you need to figure out from the top to the bottom how far it is and half of that. So half of it was 4. So we just went from the top, 1, 2, 3, 4, and drew our axis. Okay, so what is our amp then? 4. We calculated it as 4, but we need to know that -2 because it's going to be the what?
New axis.
What variable is that -2?
H. K.
K.
That's, you knew what I meant.
So I'm jumping to my K is -2. I need to go back to my what?
Period.
Period.
And that's going to be 2 pi.
Well, and then start on your axis here. So it takes me how long? 2 pi?
2 pi.
Okay. It just sounded like a big guess.
Miss Mick.
So B is
1.
1.
Now we do cosine, sine.
Now you do cosine and sine. And use that red axis that we drew on there for my H and my K. So how'd it go? How is it going?
It's going all right.
No, I'd say not that good.
What's going on, Austin?
I keep,
Nothing.
We're like,
I just get the
I got it.
H
Somewhat.
and the H. When I multiply it, I always do it wrong. No, I just keep getting the B wrong. Never mind.
What are you
False
multiplying?
news.
Okay, so remember B is 2 pi over P.
Yeah, I just keep getting the P wrong. I keep just going back.
I thought it was the H, I thought it was the B.
Yeah, it's all of it.
Oh.
That's the issue. I'm leaving it.
Okay, one more. Which one do you want to do together?
This next one, because it's 4 or 5. Or 8.
Next one's 5.
I'm voting 9.
Second.
You
Maybe we
pick
should
which
do all
one's
of it
the
at
hardest.
once. This is
Which one are we
None of
doing?
them
Good
are.
idea.
We could just do none of them, that is
Are
also.
we doing
None of them
7
are
or
hard.
9?
None of them are hard.
What are you doing? 7, 8, or 9?
I'm scared. Right now.
9.
I say 8.
Just do 8. Okay.
8 is good enough.
8 is
It's looking
the easiest of them all.
It's looking good.
No, the no was picking one.
Okay,
Do 9.
Yeah, 9.
I think we just do none of them.
9.
okay. 8, you're going to have to work on the period. Okay, so first thing is domain. So x such that what to what? 0 to pi.
Yeah.
Amp.
It would be 4 again.
Is it 4 again? So 6 and 2, so down. Y'all agree with 4?
Yeah.
Okay, so amp is 4. Do you want to do K right away then?
Yes.
K is
Negative
-2. Period.
2. B.
Would be
I over B. Wouldn't it?
Well, we don't know B. You gotta.
Well, I don't know, but would it be pi over?
it would be
Well, if I start, don't, like, if I think of it, it starts here, yes? Yeah?
Yeah.
And it ends where? There? It's pi over 2. You see that? It's not nice. Like, they're not nice, but if I don't always have to look here, do I? Can I look at maxes and mins also? Okay, so it's pi over 2. So B is going to be pi over 2 divided by 2 pi divided by pi over 2. So that means it's multiplied by
multiplied by
2 over pi. So it is 4. So do we need to walk through the sine and cosine stuff? Or do you want to do that on your own? Okay.
on your own.
Yes.
How did you get pi over 8?
Okay. I know that the period is pi over 2, yes? And that intersection has to happen at a quarter of the way through.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So a fourth of pi over 2 is
1/8.
1/8. So that's where you're going to have to do some math. Again, that comes into our 4 equal parts, correct?
Yeah.
Yep. Other questions?
No.
So really, the hardest part of the whole thing is
Finding the huge.
finding the h. Right? Okay. So you have how many problems for your homework?
2.
2. And you still have what?